All right, welcome in everybody. Another exciting episode of the Dynasty Brews podcast. We are live right now on YouTube and Twitter, and we'll be going live on Belly Up TV on Tiki Live app tomorrow at 9 a.m. Today we're welcoming in Shane Hallam from, I believe it's the Draft Countdown, right?
Yeah, Draft Countdown. So that's it's been my NFL draft site last year and this year. That's we've been bringing it back, so it's been good.
Awesome. So is that focused mostly on just the NFL draft, or is it Draft Countdown for also like or fantasy too?
Yeah, so we focus mostly in the NFL draft, the Draft Countdown, but I've been playing fantasy football since the early 2000s, so that's kind of where a lot of my love for football started. And I do a podcast, the Debbie Marketplace, and I'm all around. So a little bit of everything.
Speaking of Debbie, we have Justin in the building. I've got the one Justin that got me in my first Debbie league. Justin, Andrew, how are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good. It was a Thursday. I'm coming off a good holiday weekend.
Yeah, good, man. I hope you did the same thing that I did, grilled and pooled.
Grilled with dude. Got some New York strips from Costco, and my kids ate them and loved them, so that's always a positive for me.
I saw that on your feed. It's funny that your wife's vegetarian, I believe you said?
Yeah, yep, she's a vegetarian, exactly. So it's what you would call a commodity around these parts.
You guys, you should get her some of the vegetarian like steaks and stuff like that, because I know they got veggie like protein and stuff like that they try and pass off as the real thing. But almost like the Impossible Burger, but the Impossible New York steak.
One time she did have the Impossible Burger, and she like loved it. So like the first time she had it, she's like, "This is amazing." And then so like the next night she was like, I want another Impossible Burger. So we went out and got her one, and she's like, "This is terrible. I never want this again." So it was like a 12-hour stint of thinking like, oh wow, we actually have a go-to. We can go get an Impossible Burger or something in case, when we're driving back to Omaha or whatever. So nope, that is long dead.
Well, I guess she couldn't have it her way for that one time. But you know what I always thought was funny is the Impossible Burger and the Whopper. Like, what if they just switched them and there's like some sort of difference there? I mean, yeah. Like, what if you just got a Whopper and said she's like, "This is freaking terrible." But anyways, guys, other than my shitty jokes, we are here to talk about fantasy football. First off, some breaking news. Well, it's not breaking anymore, but it is news, and we are in the time of dead space for news. Baker Mayfield is a Carolina Panther. I want to shoot it to Shane first. How do you think this benefits, the Panthers team as compared to what Darnold would have done? And do you think that he starts right away? A lot of people seem to think that, Darnold's going to take the reins until Baker takes it away from him.
I mean, it can't get much worse. So it's like it's got to be a positive, right? I mean, we didn't want to see Sam Darnold or the corpse of Cam Newton there last year. I think it's going to be better. I think Baker Mayfield. I've never been the biggest fan of his, but I mean, he's a step up from what Sam Darnold was last season. So I think when you look at DJ Moore, you look at Christian McCaffrey, you look at some of even Terrace Marshall there in Carolina. Like, this has to be better. DJ Moore is super effective, still a good fantasy receiver. Now you have a quarterback that might be able to actually get him the football accurately half the time would be nice. I do struggle to see Baker just coming in and like winning that job, right? Like outright. Just because it's a whole new system. It's going to be very different. You have an offensive coordinator who's on record. He had Baker Mayfield ranked as the 6th best quarterback in that draft class behind Sam Darnold, behind Mason Rudolph. So, maybe not the biggest fan of his coming out of college. I think it might take a little bit of time to get Mayfield up to speed. We probably are going to see him week 1. Like, he's probably going to start the season because they kind of have to. I think they're a little bit hamstrung. But it wouldn't surprise me to see Darnold for a week or two and just ease Baker Mayfield in. I think it's tough to come in July and just outright, as a quarterback, learn everything you need to know.
Oh, 100%. And it's hard to find a fan of Ben McAdoo either. I don't think he would rank top 6 of anybody's offensive coordinator list.
Now listen, I'm a fan of his suit selection, so
Hey, speaking of suit selection, you talked about the corpse of Cam Newton. I haven't seen a better corpse since Weekend at Bernie's, man.
Hey, I was under the impression he was back. Did something change?
Look, the suit game was back at least.
Yeah.
The breath of fresh air. So.
His suit and hat game was on par. His throwing of the football.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I traded like a 5th round pick for Cam 2 weeks before he came back, and then literally after that game, I flipped him for Alexander Madison and MVS. And I got dunked on so hard. I was like, guys, I just don't think this is long term. I'm going to sell high. And my buddy was like, dude, he could be like legit for like the next 2 years. I'm like, yeah, I don't see that happening. And like literally the next week, I was like, well, that escalated quickly because it went downhill fast. So that was just, I don't know. I don't know what to say. That was probably the worst quarterbacking I've seen in a long time.
To be fair, I don't know how Matt Rule lasted as the head coach when he was literally shuffling in Darnold, PJ Walker, and Cam Newton on separate downs. It was kind of a crazy thing at the end of that whole Cam Newton experiment when you would have PJ Walker come in and it was clearly a passing play. And then you would have, Cam Newton come in, clearly a run play. It was just, you just wonder if that was very smart of them to keep him around. And
I think he was just trying to see what he had. I mean, I think Matt Rule gets a lot of slack. I think he gets way too much slack. I don't think he's a bad coach. I saw what he did with Baylor. I really do think that what they're hamstrung by is a terrible front office. I mean, outside of Christian McCaffrey, they have been absolutely dreadful when it comes to the draft.
Like, DJ Moore.
Oh yeah, let's talk about DJ Moore. So we actually made a bet last week. We're fighting for charity, so we made a $5 bet. I'm fighting for the TSC Alliance, which is for people with tuberous sclerosis. They're looking for a cure. And Herrera, you're going for Toys for Tots.
Yep.
The bet was that DJ Moore was going to finish top 24. So I love this Baker Mayfield news because I believe them when they say they're not trading Sam Darnold. They're going to shuffle these two jabronis, as The Rock would say, and they're going to be just awful. I mean, the only way that this could be any better is if we had like the Real World Road Rules Challenge crew here, and they brought in Josh Rosen. Like that would be the ultimate like battle for who is the holding the jock strings for Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen.
But Josh Rosen, Ben McAdoo also had rated above Baker Mayfield in that draft. So,
I wonder how he's feeling today because Josh Rosen's still available.
Look, I mean, I think it's better. I think they're in a better situation today than they were a week ago. Like when your options were Sam Darnold and Matt Corral, I think it's much better to have Baker Mayfield be an option. Like, he doesn't have to be Josh Allen. They're not going to ask him to be that. You have a solid young defense. You have a good receiver one, and you have a running back that's dynamic that can catch the football. I mean, the Panthers could be the second best team in that division. I think they have a roster for it. I don't, outside of Tampa, who else is really there taking the reins?
They're definitely locked in as the third best team with, maybe they can overtake the Saints. I mean, that's still, something that's clearly to be seen. But, I mean, with Baker Mayfield, I think I agree with both of you guys in the sense that I think it's an upgrade. I don't know. Why would you shuffle Darnold in there? To be honest, Darnold has been so pitiful through his career at this point. And
you forget that Darnold actually started out hot. Now, I thought it was a mirage back then. But, I mean, Darnold has shown the flashes. It's just that you never get the complete product. But, that's why I don't view this as an upgrade like you guys do. I mean, I'm rooting for Baker. I think Baker has talent, but I'm waiting for one of these guys to, as Pro Football Talk would say, show me something. I've seen the flashes. One of you jabronis has got to take the next step. Like, get rid of the flashes, put together a complete product. You have a talent around you. Just make it work. It's either coaching or you guys just aren't long for this game because it's got to be consistent.
Definitely one of them is going to the SmackDown hotel for sure, and they will be checking in. But here's something for you. Baker Mayfield in 3 of his 4 seasons has 20 touchdowns. Does Sam Darnold have 20 touchdowns passing his entire career? Like, for real here.
Listen, I'm not supporting either one of them. What I will say is that one thing I will say is I find it hilarious that the same people trashing Baker Mayfield on Twitter are the same guys that 2 years ago were trading like their left nut to go get Baker Mayfield when he had Freddie Kitchens as head coach.
All right,
I find that comical. Sorry.
I'm going to answer my question. He has never thrown 20 touchdowns in a season. In the past 2 years combined, he's only thrown 18. Yeah, this is the guy where Baker Mayfield's going to check Sam Darnold to the SmackDown hotel, and he's going to throw him in the casket, and we're never going to see him again.
We're going to get. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, Baker Mayfield is very spotty. Let's not act like Baker Mayfield's getting an upgrade here. I mean, he had it pretty good in Cleveland.
He did. I will say I think that I trust DJ Moore a little bit more than Amari Cooper, at least on the health aspect.
He had Odell though. I mean, like I get Odell wasn't. I don't.
Odell was awful. Odell was awful last year. Like let's not pretend.
Well, that's why
he had awful weapons.
That's why he's Odell. When he's good, I refer to him as OBJ. He was Odell.
Yeah, that was 4 years ago. Like let's not pretend like Odell Beckham's still a Hall of Fame receiver.
But he had two legit running backs. He had a great tight end. Odell was Odell. He had a decent receiving core. I
think great tight end's a little bit of a stretch, and I don't know. Like I think you upgraded at running back going to Carolina. I'd rather have Christian McCaffrey behind than Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
Would you rather have? I mean, it's going to be like 3 games.
And I'd rather have DJ Moore than any receiver he had last year.
That's where I would pick DJ Moore over it.
Easily.
As far as the running backs go, I like the consistency of Chubb. I do agree the talent of CMC is above where Chubb is, but the combination of Chubb and Hunt and consistently throughout the season. Tight end, I mean, who did the Panthers have at tight end? Ian, I have no.
Tommy Tremble.
I'm a waste of space.
It was the Darnold to Arnold connection last season.
Oh my God! Yes. Until he got shipped off to Jacksonville.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah. He got shipped off to a different.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Oh well, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, I got one quick question for you guys. Does this make him draftable in Superflex leagues for you?
Every quarterback's draftable in Superflex leagues for me. So.
I mean, yeah.
Let's say top 25. Does that make him draftable for you? Does that figure it a little bit better for you guys?
I struggle to find 7 quarterbacks that are better. Like I would say top 20. I mean, I don't hate Baker. I mean, he's a great QB too. But if you're making him your QB1, you got a problem.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people are comfortable if he's their QB3 in a lot of these like tournament leagues because he's definitely possible to have a good game here and there.
I'll have a couple. Yeah, I don't think he's your week in, week out reliable guy. I think a lot of people are way higher on DJ Moore than I am, as we've talked about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like to look at it this way. You said it last week. You know, you can't rely on a quarterback to make a wide receiver. Well, he's been making quarterbacks look good. So I think that if you get the right quarterback in there, he can actually elevate his game.
My man, you just told me that Sam Darnold never threw more than 18 touchdowns.
No, I said that he'd never thrown more than 20 touchdowns in a season, which he hasn't.
So, yeah, DJ Moore didn't really make him look that good.
Well, I mean, yeah, but you know, he made Cam Newton look good on some games and stuff like that.
I'm just busting your chops. Don't forget about the ghost of Robbie Anderson. This might actually, Robbie Anderson might be a guy.
Retired Robbie Anderson?
He is not retired. He's still practicing. You know, Robbie Anderson might be a great like last pick in drafts if you're doing like best ball. I actually don't think that's a terrible idea.
I said that last year. It didn't work out very well.
Yeah, he was great 2 years ago though.
Yeah,
2 years ago he was great.
Yeah.
So it just depends on. I mean,
I think I'll go with your guy Jamison Crowder over him.
Well, yeah, but Crowder's going like the 11th round of like underdog and that stuff. I'm saying like I don't even think Robbie Anderson's being drafted.
That's you know what? I think you're probably right. Robbie Anderson, especially after his whole retirement spiel, he's probably not going to be drafted either. But I mean, who knows? Maybe you win a couple weeks off of some big deep throws from Baker. But anyways, guys, let's get back on track here. We are here to talk about the AFC North. That is right. A perennial defensive stronghold. This division has been great for a long time, but now it's kind of starting to look a weak. The team that's been the Steel Curtain, one of the best teams in the NFL for a long time, finally looks like it might be a little bit on the downturn. But I mean, actually, you know what? Biggest offseason addition I didn't even add on there, Mitchell Trubisky, obviously. So I want you guys to tell me how you're figuring in Pittsburgh into your drafts this year. Are you going for players? What players are you going for? And is Mitchell Trubisky on your guys' radar as far as getting maybe a second or third quarterback? Let's start out with you, Shane. Tell me what your take is on Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I don't think like Pittsburgh's offense, it doesn't look sexy for fantasy on paper. But when I look at the values, when I look at where a lot of these players are going, then that's when I start to become interested, right? I mean, we know Najee Harris is going to get the ball a ton, like if you can get him. But I think Deontay Johnson, despite all the contract issues and all those problems, I mean, he's going in that wide receiver 15 to 20 range, which is a wide receiver 2 range. I think from a PPR perspective, they're still going to have plays built to get him the ball quickly. So I become more interested. You know, I'd rather have him than Hollywood Brown or even, you know, DK Metcalf. Like, give me the catches, you know, and I think that's still going to be there. Then, like, Chase Claypool's almost become an afterthought. He's been pushed down the board so much. I don't even like him that much. I'm starting to become interested there. And then I think that leads you to Mitch Trubisky because, okay, if Deontay Johnson's going to do decently, if Chase Claypool can catch some touchdowns, if Pat Fryermuth's going to be okay, then, like, now Mitch Trubisky becomes a legitimate QB2 in Superflex. Like, he could, if he starts, he can run a little bit. And he's just not even getting drafted. So he's probably been my biggest target from the Steelers in Superflex drafts. Because I think if he beats Kenny Pickett, I think that Mitch Trubisky could end up putting up numbers in that QB 15, you know, ish range where Kirk Cousins and Tua and Trevor Lawrence are going. You know, I think Mitch Trubisky could equal the numbers of those quarterbacks, and you're getting them at a much bigger discount.
Yeah, and you make a great point here. Ben Roethlisberger was a QB2 these past 2 years, and he's been doing it with a noodle arm, right? He's been doing it just with the volume, and his most accurate pass was 5 yards down, the field. Everything else was just shaky Jake. The ball would wobble weird. You'd be like, oh my God, does he still have anything left in it? But you know, I think that you have something there. I think a lot of people are making this Mitch Trubisky thing sound a lot worse than it is. Like, he has got legit weapons around him. You said it. Najee Harris is got volume all day long. He's actually one guy that I'm kind of a little bit lower on because I wonder if, you know, you never want to predict that type of stuff, but I wonder if the volume is going to catch up to him this year in kind of like a CMC realm. Where, you know, he had a lot of volume at Alabama. Now he comes in, he's getting the most volume in the NFL year one. You know, how long can he go a full, you know, season? So that's one thing that's been throwing me off of him this year. As far as, you know, the receivers, Deontay Johnson is probably rock solid, even if he doesn't get his McLaren contract. Pickens seems like a very solid dynasty pick. I know Justin's been huge on Pickens. Justin, why don't you tell me how you're feeling about this team in general?
Yeah, so I think the value in the Steelers has always been with the rookies. They're targets in the red zone, so I actually don't hate late round getting Pickens in best ball. I think that he's a value. You know, if you look historically, they're rookies. Their rookie year normally do well. Even Deontay Johnson, his rookie year, he had 5 touchdowns. So I know that, you know, he's struggled a little bit, but I think you're reading camp reports that they're kind of amazed that they have Pickens. He's been tearing it up in OTAs, but then again, everyone tears it up when you're not wearing those pads. So let's wait and see
Right.
when the pads go on. But yeah, I think he's a value. As for the Steelers in general, I'm actually going to stay away. I like Kenny Pickett, but I think his cost is a little too high. I'd rather take Zach Wilson in the range where I think he's going. So overall, I think this is a team built by defense. I love the Levi Wallace edition, and I actually think Najee Harris is going to be a value this year.
So you said something that's very interesting. Where is, let's see, I'm looking it up right now. Kenny Pickett on ECR right now is 33. I would definitely take Zach Wilson 11 spots ahead, considering he's going to be, guaranteed starter. What do you guys think the percentage is going to be this year? Do you think Trubisky plays the entire season, or do you think he gets pulled at some point, or he hasn't, something happened where he's not playing for a good amount of the season? What would you say the percent is that, Trubisky plays the full season?
I think if Trubisky gets the nod week 1, so he's the starter, I would actually say probably 60% that he plays the whole season. So, I mean, the one thing about the Steelers is they're a patient staff, right? That if Mitch Trubisky is playing well or they are winning, either one, he could be playing mediocre and they're winning. They're going to keep going. They don't need Kenny Pickett this year. They're not winning the Super Bowl this year. They will start who they want to start. They're not going to listen to the fans. So I think if Trubisky gets the job, I actually think he plays a lot longer than people are thinking, and I think that makes him a value.
Yeah, I think what's kind of gone unnoticed. I agree. I think the job will be Trubisky's as long as he's healthy. Health has kind of been an issue for him. He is a little bit more of a mobile guy. So I agree. I'd say 60%, but if he can stay healthy, I mean, Mike Tomlin only has, I think, 1 or 0 losing seasons in his whole coaching.
Mike Tomlin, he's never had a losing season.
0.
Yeah. So, I mean, if Trubisky gets the nod, I can't really see a need for Pickett coming in because, I'm kind of a Trubisky apologist in that I don't love Trubisky, but I think he gets far too much crap for the wins that he's gotten. I mean, he's won where he's been, and I have no idea how good Matt Nagy really is as a coach. So,
and he's been good for fantasy. I mean, he was good for fantasy when he was playing. It wasn't like he was a bad fantasy quarterback, even when people thought he was bad.
Well, the death nail has really been just Matt Nagy not moving him out of the pocket. That's what this guy needs to do, and I think that. Part of being a good coach is just letting your guy do what he does best. I actually think that there's a lot of value to be had on the Steelers. I just worry because I think their defense is going to be really good. I am a very big Levi Wallace fan. I am not happy that he left Buffalo this offseason.
And I'll also say very quickly, Steelers offensive coordinator Matt Canada, his offense is built around getting out of the pocket. Ben Roethlisberger just couldn't do it, and they had to scrap all of that last year. I think we actually see the real offense they wanted to implement last year.
Awesome. I got a couple more for you guys before we move on. How do you guys feel about the news of Claypool hitting more slot time? Do you guys think this ups his value significantly? I think it ups his value in the red zone. I think that they go to him more in the red zone. I mean, the guy's 6'4". I mean, why wouldn't you use his incredible size to an advantage? But yeah, Shane, as our resident Steeler fan, how do you feel about Claypool hitting the slot? And another question is, how do you feel about this kid, Calvin Austin? We talked about Pickens. Calvin Austin was also lighting up OTAs. He's also another consideration for the slot. Which would you prefer in that position?
I would like to see Chase Claypool play a little more of a big slot. I know that's been the talk. I don't necessarily buy that it's going to happen. It's like the old this running back is playing receiver in OTAs. It's like they're gonna try Claypool. I don't think they'll actually do it. I do hope that they use him a little bit more in the red zone, and I think there is some if they don't sign Deontay, maybe we want to get Claypool more involved. So I do think you could get some more targets in that red zone area. But I think Pat Freiermuth is going to continue to be the red zone target. I actually really like Calvin Austin. I think he could have been a top 100 pick very easily. And despite the size being 5'9", 162, he was a productive receiver in college. I mean, he was a very good receiver. He's a good route runner. He knows how to get separation. So I actually think that they'll use him as a return guy, and maybe, halfway through the season. And I think we do see a little bit of him. I think they tried to kind of implement that type of role last season a little bit more. So I think we could see some Calvin Austin this year. And I think especially in a year or two, if Deontay's gone, Chase Claypool's gone, I think it could be George Pickens and Austin kind of manning the starting positions there.
Nice. I like it. I don't think, Justin, was that a fake sneeze, or was that a disgust snarl?
No, I'm really bad. I'm a weird yawner. No.
Oh. Insert third option.
No, I don't have much thoughts on Claypool. I haven't seen much. I will be honest. I try to watch a lot of football, but I have not watched a lot of Steelers football because it makes me yawn, as I just did. We're talking Steelers. My body was like, yeah, it's yawn time.
All right. So let's move on to the Ravens. Obviously, not too much in the additions. They actually probably had more substantial subtractions with losing Marquise Brown than anything else. Mike Davis, Morgan Moses, Michael Pierce coming in to shore up that interior defensive line. Their draft additions, they killed a draft. It's like crazy that the Ravens always kill a draft. I mean, Kyle Hamilton fell to them. Then they got Linderbaum, and then they got Isaiah Likely, Charlie Kohler, Travis Jones. So it's a lot of just shoring up those positions that, it wasn't necessarily all need. I mean, you don't need 3 tight ends, even though Isaiah Likely has been running a lot of routes, and a lot of people have been saying that he has been kind of playing like a bigger wide receiver out there. So hope maybe he ends up finding a role as somebody on the perimeter. But Travis Jones shores up the defensive tackle position. Great guy out of UConn. Linderbaum, obviously a center, and Kyle Hamilton on the back end of the defense. The Linderbaum one for me kind of shows, and then you top it off with Lamar Jackson getting 20 pounds extra. This kind of seems like it's going to be a Lamar Jackson heavy run season for me. Obviously they still got Bateman out there. They got Duvernay.
They're going to have Beatty.
Do they still got James Prochet?
They do have James Prochet.
James Prochet. But guys, tell me how you're feeling about this Ravens offense and how you're feeling about Lamar. Do you think that he bounces back into that top 5 situation that he had previous years?
What do you mean bounces back? I mean, I think he is still a top 5, and I've never really been a huge Lamar guy, but
bounces back because he wasn't that yet last year due to injury, but
he probably wasn't. He was probably top 5 in terms of points, but yeah, the injury last year. I think most people have those injuries. I'm not too worried about Lamar yet. The real question is he going to be a Raven next year? And he's kind of got the Ravens in a tough spot. That one's an interesting situation because they've built their whole team around him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a big year for Lamar Jackson this year. Well, like you said, I mean, they are kind of gearing up for a run heavy team as they have been. But they've also bulked out. I think Morgan Moses and Tyler Linderbaum, and Zeitler as additions. Like the whole right side of that line is going to be so much better. So I think we get a ton of rushing from Lamar. I think we get a lot more. We continue the Mark Andrews train of throwing the football to him, and maybe Bateman is going to get enough targets. They were just so hurt everywhere last year. I think people forget how good this offense can be.
Yeah.
And at least they didn't trade their Marquise Brown for just a first round pick. Sorry.
Because they did, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, at least they did it for a first round pick that helps out their offense instead of just supplementing it like AJ Brown did for Treylon Burks, right?
He might play next year.
Yeah, if he gets his asthma under control, somebody get him an inhaler. But yeah, I mean, you know, they're bringing back J.K. Dobbins, they're bringing back Gus Edwards. You know, Lamar, obviously, like you said, it's a make or break year for him, because if he does the Dak thing and he bets on himself and he has an outstanding season, then wow, he's going to be in for the biggest contract for a quarterback ever.
See, the thing I've heard, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I hear they've offered him the money. I actually think it's more
banking on himself.
I just think it's more, does he want to be there?
I think he wants to be there. I think it is betting on, like, he hold out as long as he can. The longer you hold out, the more quarterbacks get contracts, the more money they have to offer you. Like, they've offered the money in a year, they're gonna have to offer him more money because some other quarterback's going to sign a big contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, there comes a point. I don't know. I struggle with that though. I mean,
there's never a point. There's always more money. More money is always better for everyone.
Each year, as they add more games, like Shane is saying, each year as they add more games, more money comes in.
The money does come in, but there's a difference between, like, I just think there's ways to. When I agree, he probably wants more money, but there's different ways to construct your roster, and I don't know. That one's just difficult for me. You're probably right.
Well, here's the good thing about the Ravens, and they really show that they have no desire to really sign anybody else. I mean, they're always phenomenal in the draft. So they're treating a lot of players like it's 5 years and it's done. I mean, but Lamar is a franchise-changing, quarterback, obviously. So I see what you're saying, but I'm like taking the perspective of this is what they do, and they never really shell out a lot of money for players. So for me, I look at it like they could just be like doing this in like different like 5-year periods where they're like, okay, cool, we have these guys on rookie picks or rookie contracts, boom, 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 and just keep reloading every single year.
And Dylan, earlier when you mentioned top 5, he's actually had back-to-back QB9 seasons. I wonder if that's where he's kind of.
So I was going to actually touch on your point about the averages. He actually finished QB7 on his average.
I have on a points per game basis in 21. It shows QB9. Maybe it's a scoring difference.
Yeah, I'm looking at I'm just looking at standard ECR or standard for last year's fantasy football leaders on Fantasy Pros, and it has him right behind Jalen Hurts with 21.08 average points through 18 weeks.
Maybe it's like a 6 versus 4. I don't know. Because I was pulling mine from fantasy data.
Oh yeah, I mean it could be.
Yeah,
but either way, he's still really good when he plays. It's just keeping him on the field, and now it's keeping him happy with his contract situation. So let's move on to a more exciting team. Obviously, the Bengals. This is actually, I mean, for what it's worth, I thought this is where they were going to go last year. Oh, yeah, the draft editions are totally messed up on that one. I'll pull that up real quick. But anyways, so they had offensive line problems last year. I believe Joe Burrow was the most sacked quarterback last year, which was crazy because he still had an amazing season. They go and they get Alex Kappa, Laurel Collins from the Cowboys, and then Ted Karras. So they really went and built this offensive line. Do you guys see this as becoming the Bengals are like the guys out north? Like, is this going to be the year they really solidify that they are the AFC North champions, and maybe for like a couple years?
Like, that's what should happen, right? I mean, I think seeing them in the Super Bowl, making it there, I love the way they approached this offseason. Like you said, spend the big money on the offensive line, draft on the defense. I think it was a smart way to approach it. Everything should line up on paper that the Bengals are one of the best teams, or the best team in the AFC North, and maybe one of the best teams in the AFC. I just can't accept that that's just going to fall into place and happen. Like, they probably shouldn't have been in the Super Bowl. That probably shouldn't have happened. If they get knocked out, in the first or second round, then we're probably not feeling as good, even with the exact same offseason. So I think Joe Burrow is good. I think being healthier is, another year removed from the knee, I think would be helpful. I'm not a big Joe Mixon fan. I think he's a bit overrated, and I think that could be problematic. They downgraded at tight end. I think they're going to be a good team. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they could make a run again. The defense on paper looks pretty good. But I just have trouble seeing the Bengals being an elite team with the coaching that they have. And is everything really going to gel as well as it should?
Hey, now. I have met Mr. Zach
Alice
Taylor.
was upset that gained so much. She wished there was a way to make it last longer.
Love ads. So you. So
I'm with you.
Keep going.
No, I was just saying I've had dinner with Zach Taylor before, back when I was in my days as a Cornhusker. But yeah, no, I tend to agree with you. I think the Bengals are going to Bengal. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year. I mean, you just look at the playoff picture to begin with. It's not every day you roll out of bed and you face Oakland or Las Vegas, who barely made the playoffs. They lost more games than they won heading into that stretch. And then you go against Tennessee, and Tennessee wasn't a very strong playoff team to me, especially with Derrick Henry coming off that foot. So I think they kind of had a pretty good path to the Super Bowl. I'll give them credit. They did beat the Chiefs, but I think we're all kind of overinflating Joe Burrow, and his dynasty value to me is a little way too high for me.
Yeah, I mean, I can see what you're saying, but at the same time, I look at what this team did, and they weren't full of themselves and saying, oh, we're just great. They went out and they got better. They went out and they solidified this offensive line. Joe Mixon had a really good year. I actually think this year, without CJ Uzomah, bringing in Hayden Hurst, a lot of people are getting on that Hayden Hurst train. I'm like, maybe he's there just to block. Maybe he's there just to help in extra blocking schemes. I think that Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon might end up getting a lot more of those tight end looks in the red zone than Hayden Hurst would. But for me, I look at this team and I go, all right, so you went to the Super Bowl and you spent a lot of money on a great guard and a guy who's played both left tackle, right tackle. I think he's played even right guard as well for a good, a good rushing team. I think that this team has a lot of potential, and I think Joe Burrow is actually just touching his potential. I think he's the future of, just a pocket passer at this point. When everybody's shifting towards running quarterbacks, I think he still has the potential to do what Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford did last year and finish top 5 as a pocket passer. Finish top 5 as somebody who's not running for 500 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, Jamar Chase is still a huge, producer in this offense. And then, T. Higgins, he was a value last year. He's not really a value anymore. I kind of want to get your guys's, how are you gauging these guys? Are you bullish on T. Higgins this year? Are you out on T. Higgins this year? Shane, I know that you said you were out on Mixon. Do you have anybody that's maybe like a sleeper for you on this offense that you think could actually produce for somebody at a good value?
I do like Higgins. I think he's a lot more talented than he gets credit for, and I think this is an offense that can support 2 high-end receivers. We saw that toward the end of the regular season last year, where they were just letting Joe Burrow just throw the football up, and both these guys, both Chase and Higgins, were putting up some good numbers. It's tough to pick a sleeper. As Justin mentioned, Tyler Boyd is the only other guy you can mention, he's going to be there. I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm quite on that train, but I think Burrow, Higgins, and Chase are all going to get theirs. I think that's going to continue to happen. And we'll still see those big offensive numbers. I just think I like what you said about Joe Burrow, because I do think he's more of a pocket passer, but he's still going to run for 200 to 300 yards a season. There's still going to be those times. And I think especially now that he's healthier, he'll move around a little bit more too. So I think that's important.
Yeah, if you want a deep sleeper, I don't hate the idea of Puka Williams stashing him. I stashed him on my taxi squad. Played some special team snaps last year. They brought him back this year, so he's actually a deep sleeper of mine that I have. I'm not relying on him, but I would not be surprised if he got the call a couple times because Mixon struggles to stay healthy.
What's your take on Captain America?
Puka Williams moving to receiver now. He's moved to receiver, so
Is
They
he?
moved him over to receiver.
yeah, they did.
Nice.
So I don't know if that helps or hurts you, but
I don't know, but we'll see. That actually is a shocker to me. Last I heard, he was getting suspended for PEDs, so now I don't know what to think.
So what about somebody else like a Chris Evans type of guy, a guy that can be a running back and a pass catching running back out of the backfield? I mean, now that Puka Williams is trying out to be a slot receiver or something like that, it kind of opens the door for him to get some more touches. What do you guys think about him or P. Ryan being somebody? Who would you pick to be the handcuff for Mixon?
look, if I was running the team, I'd pick Evans. I think it's going to be P. Ryan as the bane of most fantasy owners' existence. Like, he's just not exciting. It's just not fun. Like, if Mixon goes down, it's like, oh, okay, I guess got to start smudging P. Ryan's not going to do that much. But I think even with some bad plays in those playoff games, I think he's still going to be the backup. But I do hope we get to see more Chris Evans because I think as a pass catcher, he is very, very good. But man, he just cannot block to save his life. And I think it's just such a problem.
What about you, Justin? What do you think?
I don't want any of these running backs, to be perfectly honest. If I had to pick one, I'd probably go Chris Evans. I mean,
He's like, if it's not Puka, I don't want him.
I mean, I didn't even like love Puka, but I mean, he at least had the pass catching ability. I thought Puka was really fast when I watched him on tape. So, even though he doesn't, I think he's missing like a bunch of toes because of a lawnmower accident.
But interesting fact, I didn't know that him and lawnmowers don't get along. But anyways, guys, let's I guess we can move on from the Bengals. Let's go to the Browns, the most interesting team right now. First off, I gotta ask, what are you guys feeling about Deshaun Watson? I'm in drafts right now where he is just constantly getting funneled to the back of the line. But now reports are coming out he might only get 6 to 8 games. Does that alleviate some of this, this pressure on you to, skip him? Are you looking at him now if he does get 6 to 8 games, which supposedly the 14th is supposed to be a major day for this? They're supposed to kind of come to maybe more of a light agreement on what everybody wants, the disciplinary officer and the league. If it comes out 6 to 8 games, where would you draft Deshaun Watson if you were to draft him? Let's go to Shane first.
I mean, I think even with 6 to 8 games, you're still looking at, QB 15, 16. I think I would still tend to shy away from him and drafting him because now you have a guy that hasn't played for a year and a half. Is he going to come back and be as good as he was too? Like, I think we're just thinking that's happening, and I don't think that's necessarily guaranteed either. So I will just shift the bet and not take him at this point. If it's 6 to 8, then I'll pick him up. I probably won't get him because someone will probably take him ahead of where I would.
Yeah, that'll be me.
Yeah,
I tend to be. I think that he's a value right now. If you read over about, I read, I listen to podcasts and stuff. I have a desk job during the day, so really informative guy is Mike Florio. I know a lot of people on Twitter do not like him, but he actually has given a lot of insight into what's going on at the league meetings. Did not sound like it was a good week for the NFL last week. He thinks that it could be as low as 0 games. I don't think it gets there, but he says that a lot of the stuff that they were arguing, they had a really good defense team. So I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I think it's a value. He misses the 6 to 8 games. Never fished outside of QB 5 in the games in the seasons that he played a full season. So I think he is a value. Like I said before, I think that playing quarterback in the NFL is kind of like riding a bike. As long as he has still the athletic ability that he had before, I think he's going to be fine. The question is what kind of shape is he going to be in, like you said. So as far as the quarterbacking ability, I think he has all of that, but he still needs to have the athletic ability because that's what gave him the top 5 upside.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Definitely there's usually a little bit of a rust that you have to shake off regardless of the position. I mean, they were even, everybody wanted to post it up. There were practices where he was throwing more interceptions than touchdowns. Obviously,
Mahomes did that one summer too, though.
I think that every quarterback's probably done that at one point. Justin, did you probably do that in high school too, right?
Every throw was an interception.
Every throw was an interception. How many state titles do you have? How many city titles do you
thankfully,
have?
I was a left tackle. I have really good hands. Not a great quarterback.
There you go. There you go. I thought you played quarterback. I'm sorry.
No.
You were protecting the quarterback.
You could call it that. He would disagree.
Well, anyways, I mean, you gotta look at this, and I look at it from a value standpoint. If I start to see Deshaun Watson creep into like the 12th round, I'm gonna look at this and go, all right, this could seriously be something where I could get some good value on the back end of my draft, and I can get it for the back end of my season. There's players where you predict they're going to get a hot start. Like some would say Marquise Brown is looking at a hot start with the 6-game suspension to Hopkins. And then there are players, like maybe even Hopkins or Kamara, where you're banking on them having a great back end of the season. So you really got to – what's up? Go ahead.
Kamara is the real value right now. Kamara might not get suspended this year if he pushes that court date. I was reading about that. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're 100%. And that's the thing. He's getting drafted in like round 6. People are just passing him up. I just drafted him in round 6. I have him and Aaron Jones as my main running backs in one league. And I have Kyler Murray and Trey Lance as my quarterbacks, and CeeDee Lamb is my wide receiver, and Marquise Brown is my other one. But I got him in the 6th round, and that was crazy to me because I was just like, what is going on here? We're letting a legit RB1 go just based on the premise that we think that he's going to get a 6-game suspension, which is crazy.
Yeah,
but
sure. I'm 100%. Sorry, that was a tangent I wanted to go down.
You're good. You're good. I do want to, just hit on a couple points with this team. Would you guys draft David Njoku knowing that he has to have Jacoby Brissett throwing the ball for, let's say, 8 games next year?
No, I tend to lean more on Harrison Bryant from the dynasty aspect. I think Bryant has upside. Now, I think Bryant could be really good, especially with Watson back.
And to your point, sorry, Shane, I'll let you talk in a second. To your point, there is a huge difference right now in ECR between David Njoku and Harrison Bryant, to a point where sometimes Harrison Bryant's not even drafted in leagues. Whereas Njoku has just seemed, everybody thinks the new contract is going to bring him to the promised land. Here, let me just pull this up real quick. Sorry. Njoku's going 22 and Bryant is going 37. So obviously a giant difference there. Shane, what do you think about that topic? Do you think that Njoku's worth the draft pick, knowing that there's a possible Brissett in there for 8 games?
Yeah, I actually think it could be good for him. Like, I think if you're Jacoby Brissett, David Njoku is probably the best option to throw the football to, right? Short range, that's going to be the guy that you're going to look for. So I actually think Njoku could have a solid season. I mean, Harrison Bryant, I do like Harrison Bryant too. I mean, he didn't have a double-digit scoring game last year. Like, I think it's tough to say, okay, are we going to take it? Like you said, maybe long-term tight end takes some time, and I think he has some talent. So I don't mind it. I kind of like both of them in Dynasty because I do think with Brissett, this offense might go more to the tight end than it will with Deshaun Watson, who, correct me if I'm wrong, historically has not really used the tight end. Maybe it was the Texans, but it really hasn't been his thing.
Yeah, I actually find myself, if it's Brissett, I've been getting a lot of heat online. I'm all in on like Nick Chubb on this offense without Watson.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, how that leads into my next question. How do you guys feel about this offense in general? Like a lot of people want to leave it to just die if Jacoby Brissett takes over. I'm in the camp kind of with Justin saying, what's the real difference between Brissett and Baker at this point? If anything, Brissett has a nicer deep ball, so maybe it opens up for more Donovan Peoples-Jones games.
I think he's a bit more mobile. I think you could get a little bit more creative using his legs too.
Yeah,
with the running back that they have.
No, definitely, and that definitely could open up some more goal line opportunities, that weren't there. But yeah, I just want to pass that around to you guys. What do you guys think of this offense? Shane, what do you think about this offense going forward? Who are you trying to draft and who are you trying to avoid?
I don't think it's going to be a great offense. As Justin said, I think Nick Chubb will do well. I think if we assume Watson will be out for some time, I don't think the receiving options this season are going to give you what you need to start every week. Like as good as Amari Cooper is, he wasn't super reliable on the Cowboys every week. I don't think he's going to be reliable with Jacoby Brissett every week. I think long term, this offense should do really well. I mean, David Bell's probably the guy that I'm trying to get dynasty wise, who I think they really, really wanted, has shown that he can produce even with contested catches. I think he's going to be the clear number 2 receiver here long term. So I think there's some real upside. Good offensive line, some real upside with the Browns offense. Maybe not this season, but in the future.
Nice. Justin, what are you thinking about this offense? You've told us about Chubb. How are you feeling about guys like maybe like Hunt, Cooper, Peoples-Jones?
Yeah, so I think Peoples-Jones could be a value, especially when Watson coming back. Watson likes the speed guys, so Peoples-Jones could fit that build maybe. I just don't know what's going to happen with Hunt. I can't imagine with them re-signing Dearness Johnson, they're going to have a huge need for Hunt, but it is a 3-headed monster there that you're going to have to deal with. The thing about Hunt is it's his final year, so if it's not Chubb, then they're going to just run Hunt to the wolves. They're going to just run him into the ground all season too. Could be another sneaky situation because it's the final year of his deal. If they can't find a trade partner as we enter training camp here, I actually think they're going to trade him. I think there's going to be an injury we're going to see. Maybe not like 10 running backs get hurt like we saw in Baltimore, but I think there will be a situation that probably arises throughout training camp that entices the Browns to recoup some of their draft capital they traded away to get Watson.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good point. When you were talking trades, I was actually thinking, if this thing goes south and they're not in contention this year, he could be a good trade deadline type player. I mean, that's right around the time when, you start to lose running backs anyways and people want to make a push. And Kareem Hunt still has a lot left in the tank. I mean, this timeshare with Chubb has probably saved his career for at least another year or two.
If you're an NFL team, though, are you trading for Hunt or Saquon? I'm imagining both franchises could find themselves in similar territory come the trade deadline.
I would imagine that would come down to the draft capital you'd have to get or you'd have to use. I feel like Hunt would probably go for cheaper because Saquon, I feel like the Giants will still try and recoup like at least a first, if not a second round pick.
Oh, I don't think you could get that.
I mean, it all depends on the season, right? I mean, think about it. If he has a good season and he says, I don't want to be with the Giants next year, trade me away. I mean, if he has the season that, you've been saying that, past running backs in the Dable system have had, then, he could definitely be worth at least a second round pick.
But when you look at the data too, running backs have never made more money when they left. Like even look at James Conner. James Conner had to go sign for the vet minimum before he broke out again in Arizona. So it makes more sense for Saquon to try and stay there than it does to try and leave. I can't think of anyone that left their situation that went out and made more money. Even when AP left, I don't think he made much money at all when he went to Washington.
No, he didn't.
Even in New Orleans, he didn't make like jack squat.
Yeah, he didn't make any money at that point. He had already gone through 2 contracts and he was up. But yeah, I mean, it'll be an interesting story. I think you're absolutely right. I think Hunt is a trade candidate at this point. I mean, I think at this point he's guaranteed $0 million. Or he's got no guaranteed money left. So, I mean, if they were to even, they wouldn't. But if they were to even cut him, it wouldn't even be anything.
I've seen sillier things, so I wouldn't even be surprised. It's the Browns.
Yeah. And I mean, they did resign to Ernest Johnson, even though I think he's less talented than Kareem Hunt at this point, but he is younger. So
could you imagine a situation where they cut Kareem Hunt and then the Chiefs bring back Kareem Hunt and reestablish part of the things that made them special back in 2019?
Wow. Could you imagine the AFC West at that point? Like, just hand them the Lombardi trophy. Oh, man. Well, I mean, whatever happens, happens. I think that, you know, it's going to be an interesting season to be a Browns fan regardless, because you're either going to hate the fact that you signed a guy who's, you know, out for the entire season or out for a certain amount of games that you're not going to make the playoffs. And, you know,
I'll be honest. If I'm a Browns fan, I'm pissed right now. I mean, you're buying season tickets right now, and you have no blooming idea how many games your quarterback's going to miss. Like, how do you rationalize that?
And you gave up a first-round pick next year for a guy that might not even play, and now you end up with a top 10 pick. You know, like.
But it's not even that. Like me as a consumer, if you're making me buy season tickets right now, I don't even know who the quarterback is.
Yeah.
Like, how could you justify that purchase to your wife? It's like, hey, I think we're going to be a team this year. Yeah. I don't know if we're going to be good or bad. I just don't. I don't know how they're selling tickets.
At least they won't be starting Drew Lock or Geno Smith, so it'll be fine.
I kind of wish they would start Geno Smith. That would probably be a little bit better.
I don't know.
They need to just go see whoever touched Sean McVay with a clipboard and go get that quarterback. If a quarterback gave, like, you know, Sean McVay some coffee or something, they should just bring him in and see what they got. Watson this time.
Go to Detroit. Ask them how that worked out. All right, guys. Well, it was another great episode, man. You know, thank you, Shane, for coming on. We really appreciate it. This is the part of the show where we give you a little bit of time. You tell the fans where they can find you and all your work.
Absolutely. You can follow me on Twitter at Shane P. Hallam. You can check out my podcast, Devy Marketplace, for the fantasy side, Draft Countdown for the NFL draft side, wherever you get your podcasts. Go to draftcountdown.com. We'll be relaunching mid-August. So, but I already have by 2023, 2024, and 2025 NFL draft rankings up and mock drafts for all 3 years. So we're looking into the future.
What do you think about
awesome
Phil Yurkovich out of Boston College?
Yeah, I liked him before the injury, and then he tried to come back, but he has some rushing upside. I think I have him in the top 100 right now, but it's wide open. What quarterbacks next year? There's going to be 1 or 2 that creep into the first round that we didn't expect, and I think he's on that short list.
I got the top 2 going next year: Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. I
took Mr. Yurkovich in the 4th round. I feel pretty good about it.
Let's go.
I'm a big fan.
Hey, his history says one of those 2 are not going to be one of the first 2 quarterbacks taken. So I was trying to think of the last time the top 2 quarterbacks going into the season were actually drafted as the first 2 quarterbacks. 2009 was the last time that ever happened.
I always use Javon Steen as a reason why I always draft my Devy players late as opposed to early. Javon Steen was supposed to be the 101, didn't even get drafted.
Wow. Well, I still have so much to learn through Devy, and I'm excited. But anyways, guys, it's been another great episode. We're going to close it out. Thank you for joining us on the Dynasty Brews podcast. And